Hello, everybody. Welcome to this Tuesday evening with AIM, who's late. So it's not my fault. I was here and I called him. I messaged him on the group. I messaged him personally on his WhatsApp, and he was too busy to come. He was doing God knows what. He never really does anything, but when it's time to be
See,
on
this
time
is the
somewhere, he
opposite insult I get. Even when I come on, this is the kind of homophobic harassment that I get.
I
And
am not at all
what she
homophobic.
says? When she calls me up, she says, "Die, faggot, die. All homos should be thrown off the roof. ISIS is right."
Well, I am going to be pro Sinwar in this conversation, so that's a good start. Uh, let's go,
Well,
Abhijit.
even you look like a slightly chubby version of Sinwar. I'm not surprised.
Are you fat shaming me? Terrible,
Yeah.
terrible. I'm so hurt. I'm so hurt. I'm really
Boo.
hurt.
Boo.
Okay, boohoo. Okay, let's go. Um, okay, 5 days ago, Sinwar was killed. Abhijit, I have to say, got the news much before it was on social media because he shared gruesome pictures which I frankly didn't want to see, but certainly it was way before the world saw them on our group. And it did look like it was him. Of course, the DNA verification had not been done at that point of time. And finally, he was identified. And then subsequently, there have been videos that have been coming out about his last moments. In one particular video, he is very injured, sitting on a couch, and there's a drone shot of him, and he lifts up something like a stick or something, Abhijit, and throws it at the drone. And that is being kind of interpreted like everything in this conflict, there's always two sides. So that is being interpreted by those who support Hamas and the Palestinian cause, so to speak, that this was a very brave man who was standing or fighting till the end, although he was so severely injured. And there's a lot of sympathy for him from that section, including from people in India, of course, and we all know who those people are. We don't need to talk about them, but really this is the person, this is the person who was, Abhijit, basically the mastermind of those gruesome attacks on October 7th.
He was. And he was a particularly evil man because we know now from the recordings that he wanted all these mass casualties. It was planned. He had roped Iran into the plan. The Iranians said, wait a bit. He didn't want to wait a bit, he wanted to go. And all those hundreds of pages of communication, there's only one line of concern about how much ordinary Gazans were going to suffer. Right? So, you can fight like a lion. Uh, Shivaji fought like a lion, but he didn't visit those horrors on his own people. He had these very sparse fortresses so that his people would not be hurt. The fortress may fall, everybody inside would be slaughtered, but they were not civilian fortresses. Until the end, remember, it was a different standard for applied for normal Gazans, and it was a different standard for him and his family. Him, his wife, and his children all got the luxury of these tunnels in which they were moving around. Where were the tunnels for the ordinary Gazans to hide? Nothing. And he was scouring like a sewer rat. He was going from tunnel to tunnel to tunnel. It's only when he was cornered in his tunnel, and surprisingly, how he was cornered was because he had a cold. And they got the DNA samples from the tissues he'd used to blow his nose. That is how they figured out he was in that area. So it was a directed intelligence operation. It wasn't sheer luck. They smoked those tunnels. That is what forced him onto the ground. Even there, he went on hiding in houses, in people's houses. All right.
No, but he was obviously in a
Actually,
house,
nobody
Abhijit,
knows.
that was already
It was
bombed.
an area that had been abandoned. But he was going from house to house hiding. He was hiding in a tunnel while his people had no tunnels to hide in. So, how is that bravery? In your last minute, when you're caught, you show a bit of bravery. It doesn't make you any less of a pig or a rat. Pigs are actually very protective of their young. Pigs are very brave animals.
But tell me something,
You go near the feet
Abhijit,
of a
tell me
pig.
something.
It will bite you. It will charge you. It will do everything under the sun to protect its kid. Rats, not so much. He was a gutter rat. That was it.
Abhijit,
He died like a gutter rat.
okay, Abhijit, I want to know what purpose does it serve for the IDF to be releasing footage of him sitting on a pot? What purpose does it serve?
Sitting on a pot.
Yeah.
Which pot?
Well, the pots that we were discussing on our last Kejriwal episode. Not a Toto pot, but there's actually footage of that doing the rounds on social media.
There's lots of footage of him going through tunnels, having 24/7 electricity, which Gazans don't have, having beds, having a regular supply of food, which Hamas has seen to it that Gazans don't get because they confiscate all the free food aid and then sell it for profit. Uh, Gazans don't have functioning toilets at the moment. Yahya Shinwar does. What kind of a leader does this? And not to mention his wife's Birkin bag, huh? I doubt
Yeah.
it was a Birkin. I couldn't find the exact
But
Birkin, but it was an expensive bag.
But on the flip side, okay, on the flip side, he at least stayed on the ground. He was not like the others who took off, who were sitting in Qatar, living in villas, giving choreographed, videotape, recorded speeches from there. He's there on the ground. And this is a man who spent 23 years in an Israeli prison, learnt Hebrew so that he could understand the Israeli psyche better, and was
Yeah,
truly committed, for better or worse, to this cause. In that sense,
true,
at least he's been honest.
true. That's just like ISIS, a committed fanatic. So he's a fanatic. You call it committed, I call it a deranged fanatic. This is a man who used to go around torturing and killing his own people that he suspected. You didn't need to have proof. If he suspected you were collaborating with Israel, that was your fingernails would be plucked, your eyes would be pulled out. Sure. I mean, you can call a man like that committed. And yeah, sure, not 23, 22 years in jail. Let's not forget he had terminal brain cancer, which the Israelis cured. Right.
That's
Now,
true.
does that negate you?
True.
Would you hate somebody that put you in jail for 22 years? Of course you would. Um, but let's not forget why he was in jail for 22 years. Okay, he went to jail for killing people, not just killing, torture killing people. So this man has no
Let's say it
redeeming
is
qualities.
also.
Huh?
Sohail wants to know why I'm in the dark. It's because I'm in a tunnel myself.
No, she's so
And
Suhail. The problem is, you see, she doesn't even understand lighting. She claims to have written cinema scripts and directed cinema and whatnot. She doesn't even understand lighting. I had to tell her to turn off the lights behind her head and switch on the lights in front of her head. And now, of course, she looked completely ghoulish because of all these circles in front of reflecting off her glasses. But before that, she looked like the
it's the
grudge.
ring
Now,
look. It's the ring look, the ring. But okay, Abhijit, I wanna ask you this. He is obviously someone who is celebrated by people that you don't agree with, that you possibly despise even, but he is celebrated. And I'm just wondering if this is a self goal to have his video out there where he's, the last kind of moments of his life, he's still resisting. He's still, throwing whatever he has in his hands at the enemy drone.
he's
That's
throwing
powerful
because he knows
messaging.
he's throwing. Okay, so this is the kind of messaging. If you put it out to the Palestinians, they'll say, "Ah, what a hero." You put it out to the Israelis, they'll say, "Ah, what a rat." Okay, this is like all messaging. People take home what they want to take home. There's nothing you can do about it. It's that
What
simple.
impact do you think? What impact do you think it's going to have on Hamas, the next gen, so to speak, of Hamas? God knows who it is. Some saying Sinwar's brother is likely to take over. One doesn't know, but what sort of impact do you think it's going to have on them? His death and the way he died.
Nothing. Because all the Palestinians who sympathize with Hamas, for them, this would have been their great hero dying heroically. For all the Israelis who hate him, uh, we know terrorists are brave people, but that doesn't make them any less of a terrorist.
Well
They
said. Well
fundamentally
said.
believe in what they're doing. They know they're probably going to
Hmm.
get killed, and still, I mean, sure, Lashkar-e-Toiba are very brave people. Hizbul Mujahideen are very brave people. It takes guts to go rape and kill a woman. It does, whether you like it or not, knowing that you'll probably be caught and shot. Okay, but that's what he
But
is.
you do know AIM. You do know that there are counter charges on the Israeli army also of raping detainees.
There are charges, we've seen no evidence.
But they do
There is
exist,
proof.
and
There is proof
hmm,
of prisoner abuse of male prisoners in Israeli prisons. Yes, there is proof. There is evidence. There's video evidence of it. There is zero evidence of rape so far.
okay, because that's something that is like bounced around.
So I can,
What
I can also make charges left, right, and center. You have to back this up with evidence.
There was another thing I saw when the Vice President Kamala Harris came in and gave a statement, and she said that his killing should lead to negotiations because he was supposedly the roadblock when it came to negotiating for the hostage release. Now, what we've seen in the last couple of days, it's been about 5 days since he died. We've seen an intensification of Israeli attacks on Lebanon. We've seen Hezbollah also firing back. In fact, there was a strike on Netanyahu's residence, which is frankly, the attempted assassination of the prime minister. So this is not easing up. Was it a legitimate expectation to think that this getting this guy would mean that now they could move towards peace?
No, I think it was a Naam ke Vaste thing because Hamas themselves are quite hard about this. They are not in a mood to negotiate. They want a ceasefire, and that's about it. Because look, Israel is very clear. They will hold a ceasefire till the hostages are returned, if required. But after that, they're going to kill off Hamas. They will resume hostilities. So Hamas knows the moment the last hostage goes home, that war is going to start again because the Israelis are not going to let you go after what you did on 7th October last year. Okay.
But this,
So,
Abhijit, this is a morbid question, but do you think the hostages are still alive? Because and one of
no.
our viewers brought this up, and it's a good question because he says the Hannibal doctrine, right? That is
Okay, so
something
the
that has
Hannibal doctrine is vastly overstated. One of the reasons we now know on 7th October what failed was the fact that helicopters were up in the air. Okay, the gunships were up in the air within 45 minutes. The problem was they didn't know who to hit, where to hit, but because the ground commanders who are meant to call in the strikes had all been killed. It was a decapitation of the Southern Command that had happened when the military base at Nahalos was attacked. I think you've all seen the videos of how they go into that camp and kill all the commanders, kill all the soldiers, and everything like that, right? The second issue was when they used to find these guys, there would be Israeli hostages in there and they could not kill them. Right? They've not been trained. Understand, Hamas that day came deeper into Israel than any Arab army has in the last 75 years. This was the deepest penetration of Israel ever by a foreign army. They have they realized they had just not been trained What to do in a circumstance like that? Because you expect armies to come in deep, in which case it's easily identifiable. There are fatigues, there are tanks, there are armored personnel carriers, there are this thing. These guys had not been trained to look. And remember, the Israeli military does intelligence driven operations. They'll have a helicopter pilot will be told, this guy is there, he's in a white car, so he can distinguish the white car. He can zoom in and check the number plate, and then he'll be, yeah, now I'll shoot my guided missile on him, boom. Or there are those terrorists out there at the corner of this in this street. Sure, there are two, three civilians around there, but that's acceptable. Let's drop a bomb there, boom. In this case, they were Israelis. They had no way of figuring out who were Israelis, who were not. And when they did see, the AK-47 was the clearest giveaway that you were not a Israeli, because Israelis don't use AK-47s. Then there were terrorists around them, Israeli civilians around them, whose lives they are not going to endanger. Right? So this Hannibal doctrine thing is vastly overstated. Okay, it's a last minute call to be made, and for the Hannibal doctrine to apply, it has to come right from the top. And no Israeli prime minister is going to risk it except in one or two cases of an extremely high value individual going into their hands. Tomorrow, if the Mossad chief somehow falls into Hezbollah hands, then the prime minister will say, yeah, go for it. He's got too many secrets. We can't afford for him to fall into those hands. See, the Hannibal doctrine also has a certain logic. Israeli soldiers are intelligence is shared with them freely. They tend to be, in intelligence terms, say somewhere here in terms of intelligence sharing. The Mossad chief would be somewhere here. Different rules apply here than it applies there. So even there is a gradation in it. So sorry, coming back to the question, because we got waylaid by the Hannibal doctrine. Kya tha?
Basically, the hostages.
Yeah,
The
so I
ground
don't
attack
think
that.
too many of them are alive. I think it's probably only about 20, 30 maximum who are alive at the moment. Absolute maximum.
And they would be alive purely for leverage, right?
Yeah,
In the
yeah,
event that it's where you have to kind of have a trade off at the last minute, that would be the
yeah,
reason why they would keep them alive. So these
yeah.
protests that are going on in Israel, what kind, and I just want to point out here that Benjamin Netanyahu's older brother, was killed in a hostage operation where he did manage to rescue hostages. This was in Entebbe, and he lost his life during that operation and was a war hero subsequently because of that. So this is also a situation that I guess the prime minister is personally very aware of, and the kind of risks that even the security personnel take, as well as the families of those held hostage. But in Israel, we're seeing a division, Abhijit, wherein there are people who are rightfully protesting and very nervous about these kind of actions, like taking down Sinwar, because with every time something like this happens, the chances of their loved ones being alive just fade into the background. So
Okay, look,
what?
this is
Yeah, go ahead.
this is something we see in every society. Do you remember what happened when IC-814 was hijacked?
No,
The
it's too
families
young.
came out and started protesting outside the prime minister's office, and
Hmm.
ultimately these guys had to be released. And 2611 was a direct result of the people who were released. Yahya Shinwar was released in the exchange for Gilad
2011.
Shalit.
Yeah.
Okay. Yahya Shinwar was released in direct exchange for a guy called Gilad Shalit. For one Israeli soldier, they had to exchange 1,200 Palestinians. Okay. There have been other cases. In 2006, for example, when those five soldiers were killed and taken, even for the bodies of those dead soldiers, they had to release a few hundred. And the Israelis now understand this is a compact Israel has with its society ki har bande ke liye we will this thing. But the cost of release of 1,200 prisoners that day was 1,200 dead Israelis on 7th October. So there is clearly some kind of a recalibration of that compact the Israeli government has with its society. Ki bhai, we will go up to a certain point for hostages, but not beyond that.
And now, I just want to bring you to the Lebanon, the Hezbollah side. They've also had some very significant losses in terms of Nasrallah, and the next guy who took his place, his cousin. He's also been taken out, right? His cousin.
Hmm.
Yeah. So
With
there.
Hezbollah, probably the entire high command has been taken out. 90% of their high command has been taken out. High and middle command, right? So it's operating on heavily reduced this thing. They are now operating directly on Iranian intel, which is better than uh, their own intel at the moment. Though they're claiming they're operating independently, which is not possible. But anyway, that's a matter of speculation. Um, Hezbollah is going to the Israelis have basically come to the point where they're looking at the Houthis and Hezbollah as the symptom and Iran as the disease. So, whatever knockdown effects you're going to see are going to come from the Iran strike. Now, I've had two, what do we call it, two uh, false alarms with the Israel strike because they've been conducting large scale exercises. And every time on satellite maps, when we see those planes accumulate and the tankers go up, we're expecting a strike. It's happened twice so far, and they've all landed back and gone back. But they are going to go after Iran. From what we see now, they're claiming it's not going to be one strike. It's going to last many, many months, is what they're claiming. They're planning a coordinated, sustained, multi-week, multi-month strike against Iran, uh, which is why today Hezbollah issued a statement saying, well, Iran had nothing to do with the drone we sent to kill Netanyahu. They're claiming they did it independently. Why? Because they now know that they've put Khamenei, the head of the IRGC, the Iranian cabinet, the Iranian mullacracy, the Iranian parliament, all of them are now legitimate targets for Israel. So they've finished off Hamas more or less. They've dealt some very nasty blows to Hezbollah, but Hezbollah is not completely down and out, unlike, say, Hamas. There's a bit of academic disagreement. I personally feel Hezbollah has been damaged more than Hamas. I think Hamas has more fighting strength at the moment because they could not be targeted the way the Hezbollah leadership could, with pagers, then walkie talkies, then the Redwan Force Command, and then finally the entire Hezbollah High Command. So I actually think Hamas will come out of this stronger than Hezbollah, but all bets off the table if the IRGC gets significantly attrited.
And also
Let's
with Hamas,
war is not
Abhijit,
linear. We need to remember this. War is not linear. You knock out one thing and it can have a complete domino effect. On the other hand, you could knock out 100 things and it'll have no effect sometimes.
also, Abhijit, considering how the Gaza population is trapped on the stretch, Hamas must also, if they're losing men, there must be people from the ordinary population. Because remember, this is a group that was elected, that was popularly elected to power. It's another matter, they never held an election after that. So, there was no way of testing how popular they remained. But with the kind of devastation that has taken place in the last year, it's quite likely that there are people who are taking up arms with Hamas now. So it's in that sense, their losses are being made up.
Sorry, repeat. I didn't understand the question. It was so long as usual.
Oh God, because you're not listening. You're too busy
I
checking out
am
your profile
listening. The
camera.
problem is you go
Okay,
off in so many
I
different
I
tangents.
am
You can't ask
saying
a
I'm saying
straight question.
I'm saying very straightforward that these are people who are desperate and who are trapped. Okay,
Hmm.
for a lot of men out there, the only option might be to take up arms when Hamas is losing, because this was a popularly elected government or whatever, never had an election after that. But unlike Hezbollah, which is also facing a lot of
Again,
pressure
short
internally,
question. You've already gone
yeah.
off on two separate tangents.
Oh God, I'm giving you a comparison
Ask
because
a question,
related
Advaita. Don't give a
related
speech.
related to what you said about Hezbollah being more attacked and Hamas coming out stronger. I'm asking you if this is the reason.
No, it's relative strength. I think Hamas has been less treated than Hezbollah. I think, see, you gain recruits when you haven't been mentally destroyed. Lebanon, even though Hezbollah has probably been more treated by the Israelis, Lebanon is not mentally destroyed. Gaza is mentally destroyed. Okay, think of it this way: Hezbollah is Germany after the First World War, Gaza is Germany after the Second World War. The First World War, they could walk back, German troops could walk back to Germany or train back to Germany with their arms. They felt they'd been betrayed at the political level, they had not lost the war at the military level, and that is what fed Hitler. That's Hezbollah. Hamas today is where Nazi Germany was when Hitler's bunker was finally surrounded and Sinwar didn't commit suicide, but they're at that level. We need to remember that Germany retained some fighting strength after Hitler committed suicide as well. Futile, but it could have fought on for another month or so, right? People think that Berlin was the last pocket. No. Look at where the East and West German border was. There was still a lot of territory in between the Russians and the Americans that was sort of that remained free Germany, which is why the border of East and West Germany was a further 100, 200 kilometers further east, further west. Hmm. So it's Hamas. Let's say they both started. I would say Hezbollah was slightly higher here. Hamas was here. After the Israeli campaign, Hamas is here. Hezbollah is here. But Hezbollah can still recruit and go back here because they seem undefeated like Germany after World War One. Hamas,
Okay,
even
now,
though it, here technically, they can only now go down. Because
okay. So the
remember,
count.
the entire area of Gaza is going to be occupied. There is going to be no Hamas government allowed again, nobody associated with Hamas allowed again. They were able to acquire wealth and live lives of luxury abroad because they had a government and they were siphoning off aid money. They can no longer do that.
Okay, which brings me to the question on Hezbollah and internal politics in Lebanon, wherein it has also come out of a civil war a few years ago. There
Mm.
is increasing pressure because there is a belief in Lebanon amongst a certain section of the Lebanese that Hezbollah has unnecessarily dragged them into this conflict. Remember, Hezbollah is a state within a state. Their army
Mm.
is more powerful than the official Lebanese army, but there is a
Yes.
lot of tension within because of the displacement, because of the deaths, that Hezbollah has really dragged them into this, and they need to go. Do you think,
Yes.
and that's part of the plan as far as Israel is concerned? So, do you think that's going to happen, or are they going to be able to build back,
I
like you're
think,
saying?
this is where the Israelis, this is my big complaint with the Israelis. They tend to be have a very confirmation bias that everybody loves them or everybody can become their ally. They're still operating off the 1980 Lebanon Civil War playbook, where they think, you know what, actually the Lebanese hate Hezbollah. We just need to knock them over and, no, it isn't. The Lebanese are brainwashed into supporting Hezbollah. Why is it that you will see protests against Rafiq Hariri, the son Baby Hariri, and the Hariri governments? You will see protests against the Bank of Lebanon and everybody else, but you will never see protests against Hezbollah out there because they know they will get killed. With Israel, they know that as long as they're not near a Hezbollah bank or a Hezbollah secret weapon stash, they'll probably survive. But if Hezbollah decides you're finished out there in Lebanon. So they dare not open their mouth against Hezbollah. Okay. Now, you will have to, and no matter how much you attrit Hezbollah in terms of, so you remember we discussed this right now after the attrition, Hezbollah is here, Hamas is here, but the Lebanese army has always been here. So no matter how weak Hezbollah is, the Lebanese army is still much weaker than Hezbollah. Okay. So no, I don't think it will prevent that. It's the same in Gaza. In Gaza, had it not been such an exhaustive bombing campaign and complete repeat displacements of the population, they would have still believed that Hamas were their saviors and things. They may still, in private, like it, but I think there's going to be some kind of a proxy dictatorship imposed on them by Israel, where Israel will choose local Sunni administrators to govern this thing. They will empower thugs and hoodlums to run a Sunni police state that is not Hamas out of Gaza. And in that circumstance, the Gazans will be ruled by their own people, but they'll be shit scared of the people ruling them, just like they were with Hamas. Of course, Hamas also used to brainwash its own people to believe everything. I have,
How far are
I'm
we from
actually,
this sort of situation?
I'm actually very pro-Palestinian because I want Palestinians to behave like every other mother who don't want their children to die. The problem I've seen in both the West Bank and here is mothers actually want their kids to die. And I find that
Sure.
sick.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have more love for my dogs than a Palestinian mother has for her child. I would rather die than see any of my dogs die. And they're not even human. What kind of a
And
mother
it's
says, I want
that's
my
the other
child
thing
to
we
be.
discussed once. Abhijit, that's the other thing we discussed, wherein you pointed out, and I've noticed subsequently that these Arab states are not taking in Palestinians in the way
They're
that
not.
they should.
Look, the
Yeah.
Palestinians have been a problem population wherever they have gone. They first went to Jordan. They tried to kill off the king and take over the Jordanian state. This was in the 1970s. In 1917, they were all kicked out and went to Lebanon. Then they tried to take over just what Hezbollah succeeded in doing. PLO failed to do because they took over the Lebanese state. And they were the ones who triggered the Lebanese civil war, which is where Israel invaded and saw to it the PLO would get kicked out to Tunisia. And that is where the PLO became a weak organization that had no teeth left. So, the Israelis have done this with Hamas. What is being done today to Hamas and possibly Hezbollah, the Israelis have already done it to the PLO before. So they know if you kick a movement out of its support base, its life isn't long.
Yeah. Another conversation point that's gaining a little bit of steam is that of Palestinian identity. They're essentially Arabs, but there are some people who are saying that the first time the term Palestinian as a people was used was back in the 1930s by the Israelis. I mean, there was no Israel then, but by the Jews who had set up a Philharmonica because a lot of because of Hitler, a lot of them and the musicians and artists and people of that sort were moving away from Europe and set up this Philharmonica and use the word Palestine. for themselves. There was
Well,
even a
it was the
football
British who
team
first
of
used it.
Jews.
It was the
No, I
British
mean
who
there
first
was
used
also a
it.
football team. Let me finish.
Huh?
There was also a football team. There was also a
I never
football
know when
team.
you're finished, Advaita. You stop and then you
I'm,
start again
you
after
know,
5 seconds.
Abhijit, I have to ask a question. I have to ask a question. So will you let me
Then
ask it?
ask.
Yes. So don't be impatient. It's not a monologue. If you want a monologue,
I don't know
I'll
when
put you
you're
on the stage,
finished.
and you can, because I'm not.
I
You're
don't
not
know
letting
when
me
you're
speak.
finished.
You're not letting me
So,
speak. Let
पूछो.
me ask. I'm asking. You're already interrupting. No, it was this one. No,
यार
let me
तुमने
finish.
ऑलरेडी एक क्वेश्चन
I,
पूछा है, अब उसका जवाब देना है या किसी और का
you want
जवाब
a
देना है?
monologue? If you want a monologue, you do a monologue. How about
No,
that?
बताओ.
Even
You
better.
said it was Palestine was named after the Philharmonic and the Jews used it first. No, the British used it first. Next.
Which year did the British use it? Tell me, because I'll give you
1919.
the year the Jews used it.
1919. The end of that is the first
That's
time it
not
was
right.
named
That's
Palestine
not right.
again. It became mandatory Palestine.
Anyway, we'll do a fact check on this. That is incorrect, but I will even pull
No,
up
it is
the
actually correct.
Wikipedia page. No, it's not. Everything you say is not correct all the time.
It is
Okay,
correct.
it's not. It's not. I mean, the fact that you're even sitting here is because I'm so kind to you, not because you're correct. Okay,
Um,
next, moving on
Suhail, if you're
from.
watching, remember he steals our scripts. She doesn't pay us, and this is the thanks we get. And she's making millions off of us.
I'm not making any millions. Okay, now let's
Man,
move on.
Suhail told me you just got a contract for 1 crore so that me and Suhail would appear on your program. And we haven't even seen one footy cordy from that.
Please ask Sohail where it's come from, because Sohail is supposed to be this big brand guru and he's supposed to know the world. And we've not got even one
He
sponsor.
told me where it's come from. I'm not going to announce it in public. No.
Really? Where? People are saying two girls bickering. At
हाँ,
least
ये
we're
तो
not
है.
stealing each other's
Identify as a girl.
boyfriends. Yeah.
Besides, my
At least we're
hair is
not
better
stealing
than
each
hers.
other's.
My hair is
At
better
least we're
than
not
hers.
stealing each other's boyfriends.
घने
Thank you,
घने
Harris.
मुलायम
You're the only
काले
one who.
बाल टाटा टामत वाले बाल डाबर आमला केश तेल डाबर आमला केश तेल.
Harris has said I'm beautiful, and he's the only one who said anything nice to me today. So thank you, Harris. You're the reason
कोई
why
बात
I
नहीं.
do this show. Huh. Anyway, moving on. So Abhijit, let's get to Iran. Okay, I want to know why do we know so much about an impending Israeli attack? Short question. Should we know so much?
Look, I mean, what do we know realistically? Nothing. All we know is Israel is going to attack Iran. Okay. We know only as much as the Israelis want us to know as part of their messaging, plus this document that got leaked. But even that document did not have uh, specifics. It was much more generics. There's actually been more specifics that come out of the Israeli spokesperson yesterday, well, technically very early this morning, than there has from that intelligence leak that happened on that Telegram channel. So we actually don't know much at all.
So we don't know much at all, but we know enough. I read the news somewhere, and because the news comes fast and furious in this, so there was this conversation about how an Iranian spy cell was busted in Israel, and they were going after an Israeli nuclear scientist. Have you heard of
It's
this? Is there
actually
any
now
truth to this?
four people. They busted one 2 months back trying to kill Netanyahu. Then they busted one more trying to kill Netanyahu last month. This particular cell is a bigger cell because it was meant to kill political leaders and it was meant to kill nuclear scientists.
The other conversation that is happening a lot is about just how much are the Israelis listening to the Americans, because there seems to be, the Americans try to make it seem like they're not being heard or that they are making their point, but Israel is doing exactly what they want. So what's the game here? Are they listening, or are the Americans 100% with Israel in whatever they're doing?
So we need to understand these are two mutually codependent countries. Deeply codependent in a way Indians don't understand because we don't have that kind of dependency on anyone, nor does anyone depend on us that much. Okay. First, the Jewish lobby in DC is so important. If you antagonize Israel beyond a certain point, you can kiss any post retirement opportunity goodbye, post government opportunity goodbye. You can kiss any chance of being labeled an intellectual goodbye. You can basically kiss your career goodbye. Second, we also need to remember Israel has been a source of extraordinarily high fidelity intelligence for the Americans on the Middle East. Okay. Third, we need to remember that Israel has very often agreed to do things that are not in its own personal interest but are in America's interest when America asked them to do it. A simple example was 1970 when the Palestinians were going to take over Jordan, and Israel was technically at war with Jordan. The Americans called up and said, "Look, bro, we need you to save King Hussein. So you're going to have to bomb PLO targets." There was a division in cabinet. They said, "Yes, sure, okay, let's talk it over." They talked it over, and finally, the "let's bomb the PLO" lobby won. But by that time, King Hussein had turned the tide, so it didn't. The Israelis didn't have to do that. But in essence, they agreed to it. Okay. Now, so it's not a one-way dependency. On the Israeli side, whatever they want to do is sometimes held back by the Americans. And what ends up happening is that they don't. This is the first time they've gone and done exactly what they want without the Americans holding them back. Because if you read the histories of the 67 war, of the 73 war, of 1956, where America actually threatened nuclear retaliation, the Israelis pulled back. This time they're like, boss, no. 7th October crossed the line, so you don't get to tell us this. The Americans are trying, but remember, Israel is so dependent on funding, market access, and weaponry from America that they don't. It's literally mutual dependence. It's not some protocols of the elders of Zion and all that bullshit where it's one way dependence and it's just the Jews in America controlling everything. No. Okay, because remember, the Jewish lobby in America hates Netanyahu. These are people who want to see Netanyahu out of power and they vote overwhelmingly for Kamala Harris. So, there was a joke I saw on the internet. American Jews will vote 80% for Kamala Harris. Israeli Jews will vote 80% for Donald Trump.
Why do they
Right?
hate Netanyahu?
Because Jews are concentrated in two things: the northern eastern coast and the southern western coast. They tend to be extremely woke, liberal, rich, lefty. You know, gender is a spectrum. Gender binarism is bigotry. That those kind of users, just like Indians, by the way. I think Trump is more popular in India amongst Indian Indians than he is amongst American Indians who vote overwhelmingly for Kamala Harris in spite of everything and Democrats.
You
It's
know,
that urban thing.
you know what was the funny thing was I put up a Facebook post saying I hope Trump comes back, and all my college friends were like, what's wrong with you and how could you say this and blah blah blah, and then I just deleted that post. I was like, why? It's not my circus, not my monkey, I'm not getting into it. These are like friends I've had for 20 years, I'm not going to mess it up. So I so I it is like crazy right now there. But AM, I want to ask you this. If Trump does come to power, okay, we'll know in about 2 weeks. But
He's
if he
not.
does get back to power, you don't think so?
He's not.
How do you know? Why do you
20,
say that?
20 million illegal voters, bro. He's not coming. He can have a 5-point lead in all the opinion polls. He's not coming back.
That's trouble.
But we can discuss hypothetically. If Trump comes back, then
If he comes back to power, what is going to happen with the Israel? He's backing Israel 100%. He's already said it.
100% he's backing
Yeah.
Israel.
And he's saying go for Iran as well. So
Go
what do
for
we
Iran
expect?
as well. He's also going to cut off Zelensky.
Hmm.
Hmm? Which is why the state, which the I hate that word deep state, but anyway, let's use it just for encapsulating a complex set of ideas. Yeah, Soham, that's exactly why I'm saying, in the hope that my election panotti, hashtag election panotti thing. Yeah, thank you. Yes, that's exactly right, Anand. Anand and Soham got it 100% right.
Keep these coming, guys. Keep these coming. Yeah. Go ahead,
Yes.
Ayam.
Also put some comments about how ugly Advaita is and how beautiful I am.
They're not. They're not doing that.
Please do that. Anybody who puts up comments like that, I will take you out for dinner when you're in Delhi. Hmm.
He
So
doesn't take anyone out for dinner.
I take a lot
FYI.
of people out for dinner, honey, just not you.
Oh,
तो मैं
really?
क्या बोल रही थी? Again you
After
wail over me.
cussing out the Jews in America for being not into genders and blah blah blah, मैं क्या बोल रही थी?
But
Go
they
ahead.
are. You know, who is woke in America? Rich, urban, white people. The Jews are an
If
extremely successful population. They're extremely rich, extremely
correct.
urban, extremely woke. They turn woke.
I
They have
told you,
this
no?
guilt about
Remember I told
why
you
do I have so much wealth? Why am I so white?
remember I told you I had Jewish host parents like in the US, and I used to go to like Jewish singles mixers. It was great fun. Very rich people,
Yeah.
rich boys there.
So,
But
so did your
didn't work
so did
out.
your house father transition to become your house mother and your house mother transition to become your house
No, he
father?
didn't. He didn't. He didn't. But I he did give me a yarmulke, and I used to wear that everywhere. So it was fun. It was good fun.
Nice.
But but I'm very fond of the community because of that experience, obviously.
Oh, they're a
But
fun
moving
community.
on, yeah, moving on. I want to know from you, there is also this talk that the Arab American, like you're saying, the vote bank there would be the Arab American community, and especially in a place like Dearborn, Michigan, where they are the majority. They seem to be getting off the Democrats because they feel the Democrats are not doing enough, and they're saying exactly the same things that they would have expected a Trump to say. So a lot of them are considering not voting or abstaining.
You know, today the metric has come out that Trump is more popular amongst Arab Americans than Kamala.
Right.
Because at least with Trump, they see what they get. With Kamala, they don't know what they're going to get because she's so two faced.
Hmm. 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 And,
Right. So
and
that
she's actually she's moving more to the right as this situation progresses. She's
not really.
moving
She
more to the
moves
right
right and then she moves
because she's
left.
saying,
Yesterday at a rally, somebody asked
hmm,
her, why aren't you saying more about the genocide in Gaza and all of that? And her response was, yeah, man, it's a genocide, it's terrible, blah, 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 blah. So, she
hmm,
moves
hmm,
wherever she needs to move to suit. She's the candidate of least resistance within her party. Okay, and you remember what
yeah.
Margaret Thatcher used to say about consensus and leaders, right? Consensus is where
No.
everybody agrees to do something nobody believes in. So, that was
Well,
that.
I don't know. President Kamala Harris is sounds very unlikely to me, but we'll know soon enough. In fact, we'll have some conversations about the American elections as well. We must, and we won't invite Abhijit because he's just a little Miss Know It All, and we don't need that kind of vibe on our show. And yeah, so
This
finally,
after
Abhijit,
all that
last
I've
question.
done to you. Did I ever sue you for
You're a
stealing
little
my
Miss
two
Know It All.
scripts?
Anyway,
Did I
tell
ever
me
sue you for
something.
stealing my scripts? You can't
How
even
soon is
write
Israel going
English.
to attack Iran? How
Huh?
soon is Israel going to attack Iran?
But I miss know it all. Now why do you want my opinion? I'm very
Okay,
hurt
so
by
he's
your
not going to tell us. He
vitriolic,
doesn't know.
vitriolic attack against my delicate persona.
First of all,
Okay,
you're
let me
really low energy today. I don't know
for
why
the
you
first
came
time
on the show.
on for the first time on the Advaita Kala show, special treat for all our viewers.
Yeah. I, Abhijit, stop it. I don't know why I call you. And secondly, I mean, what if
Yeah.
Mozart finds out where you are?
Who?
That's how they found Sinwar, right?
Yeah,
So what if
but
they
that's
find where
fine.
you
I
are?
thought of
In
the
fact,
really
oh my
wanted
God.
list.
So back in the day when I was like working in a hotel, okay, this is in like a while ago, we had some big shot Israeli coming. So the Mozart guys came to clear out the floors and everything. And I remember them going into the buffet and one big guy came out with like 12 gulab jamuns on his plate. And I had to ask him, I said, what's this? And he was just like, I love gulab jamuns. So
Uh,
anyway.
but they hate chilies. My big problem in Israel, every time I go to Israel, I carry chili sauce with me
Hmm.
because they're like, man, we love chilies. I'm like, are you mad? You hate chilies more than you hate Hamas, Hezbollah, and Hitler combined. You will not get chilies in Israel. So, this time when I asked, I'd run out of my chili sauce. So when I asked for chili sauce, this lady comes up very gingerly to me, and she's like, sir, you have to be very, very careful with this. This is super hot chili. Please use it sparingly. So I'm like, man, not, I'm like impressed. Maybe Israelis do have chilies after all. Taste करके देखा and because she said it was hot, I thought it was bhoot jolokia or something. So I put a little. I'm like, what? I can't taste anything. And I put a bit more. Then I put a lot. I'm like, where is the chili in this? You could literally rub this chili sauce into an Indian baby's eye and the baby won't bat an eyelid. And this for them
By
was
the way,
super
when are you
spicy.
going again to Israel?
Not this year, maybe next year.
Maybe you should take Pallavi and me with you next time.
Maybe. If you're nice to me. If you're mean and horrible to me like you have been, I may not.
I invited you to a party yesterday, AIM. You refused to come.
I it
It
was
was
some old
lovely.
guy's party in some old building. I have no intention of attending.
It was lovely. Lovely. Anyway,
बहन
guys, so
तेरे को
that's
ओल्ड
that.
एज होम चलाना है ना,
Before
तू ओल्ड एज होम चला. Don't pass off your old age home as a party to me to attend. He
okay, guys,
basically called me
before
to do. He basically called me yesterday to do geriatric care at some old age facility.
before AIM blows his nose again,
Hmm.
yuck. Please.
What?
Before AIM does gross stuff on this channel, I think we should just go and come back again another day. We want to discuss Maharashtra. We want to discuss the Mahavikas Agadi and all the fighting
But we
that's
need
going on
Pallavi
with.
for that.
Yeah, so today was not that kind of show. So we'll do that tomorrow, day after, because there's a lot of drama going on with them within the
Okay, on
alliance, which
popular
is
demand
expected. And
because Toby Gobbler has asked. Okay, here.
no, what's wrong with you people? Yuck. I thought you were going to dance or something. I muted you. I muted you. You're just disgusting. Disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. Okay,
Gobbler said
everybody,
so.
I've got to go. Oh, I've got to go eat dinner and I'll talk to you all soon. And we'll catch up soon. I'm sorry it was so low energy today because, as you can tell, AIM is not well and he's overacting as usual. Little Miss Know It All. Uh, oh, God. There are people saying it's natural. Advaita, you're anti nature, whatever.
Yeah, you are.
Okay. Oh God. Anyway, so I'm planning a really exciting event in February, and I'll tell you all about it. And we're not inviting Abhijit, so that's lovely. And
Yeah,
we'll
it's going
have
to be
some
bored.
very
We're all going to be bored to death.
we're gonna have some really interesting people, not including Abhijit. And Abhijit, our viewership has dropped because you were blowing your nose. Ha ha. Thank you,
What
everybody,
dropped?
and thank you for watching. And we will be
It
back
dropped
soon.
because you muted
And
me
do
while I was
remember
blowing my nose.
Do remember to like, share, subscribe, and all the nice stuff that you can do for us. And we will be back soon. Thank you so much for watching, and bye for now.